All right, let's talk about a threat that could be hiding right in your own home, inside a device you probably set up once and then completely forgot about, your Wi-Fi router. We're going to unravel the story of a really sneaky piece of malware called KadNap. So here's a wild question for you. Is that little box with the blinking lights, the one that gives you Wi-Fi, actually leading a double life? Secretly working for some bad guys on the internet? Well, let's find out, because it might be. So how big of a deal is this? Well, researchers have already tracked down more than 14,000 devices that have been compromised. And get this, that's just the ones they've found so far. The real number is probably way higher. Yeah, this isn't some random accident. Every single one of those 14,000 plus devices is now part of a massive hidden network, a botnet. And it's all run by a piece of malware that's specifically built to be almost impossible to see. Okay, so let's put a name to the face. The malware causing all this trouble is called KadNap. And honestly, the way it operates, that's what makes this whole thing so clever and so concerning. Now, KadNap is a little picky. It mainly goes after the kind of routers that you and I would use at home or in a small office. It seems to have a real taste for ASUS models, but don't get too comfortable. Other networking gear is definitely on its menu too. And make no mistake, this is a global issue. We're seeing infections pop up from Taiwan to Russia, but the US is getting hit the hardest by far. We're talking over 60% of all the known victims. This isn't some far-off problem. For a lot of people, it's right next door. So the big question is, how does a piece of malware manage to infect thousands of devices without anyone noticing? Well, the answer is pretty brilliant, actually. It's all about hiding in plain sight. The secret weapon here is something called the KadNap DHT protocol. Okay, the easiest way to picture this is to imagine a secret address book that the criminals use to control all the infected routers. But instead of keeping that book in one spot, they've ripped it into thousands of tiny pieces, and they give just one single random page to each infected router. It makes finding the masterminds almost impossible. So how does your router actually get drafted into the secret army? It happens in 4 main steps. First, a malicious script gets downloaded onto it. Second, that script sets itself up so it can survive even if you reboot the router. Then, the main malware payload gets installed. And finally, your router is officially part of the network, just waiting for orders from its little piece of that secret address book. And you don't have to take my word for it. Listen to this quote from the researchers and Lumen's Black Lotus Labs. They point out that because of this clever DHT protocol, all the malware's secret messages just blend in with the normal, everyday buzz of internet traffic. To any security software, it just looks like noise. Okay, so we know what KadNap is and we know how it hides. But why? Why go through all this effort? Well, the answer, as it usually is, comes down to money. This isn't just about causing trouble, it's a for-profit business. See, this secret army of over 14,000 routers isn't just sitting idle. It's been packaged up into a product that's being rented out on the dark market. Your hijacked router is now a tool that other criminals can pay to use. The service they're selling is called Doppelganger. It's actually a rebrand of an older service called Faceless. And what are they selling exactly? They're selling access to your home network, to your internet connection. They call them resident proxies. And here's what that means. Other criminals pay these guys to route all their shady, malicious internet traffic through your router, using your IP address. This gives them complete anonymity to launch their own attacks, and the scariest part? If law enforcement ever investigates, all the digital breadcrumbs lead right back to your front door, not theirs. Okay, I know, this all sounds really sophisticated and pretty scary, but here's the good news. You are not powerless here. So let's get to the most important part of all this, what you can actually do to fight back and protect yourself. Look, the best defense is just some basic digital security. Here are 5 simple things you can do right now. 1, keep your router's software or firmware updated. 2, just reboot it every once in a while. 3, and this one is so important, change the default admin password. Seriously, don't leave it as admin and password. 4, make sure your router's settings page isn't accessible from the wider internet. And 5, if your router is super old and the company doesn't send out security updates for it anymore, it's time to replace it. So I'll just leave you with this thought. We all put locks on our doors and alarms on our windows, right? Well, your router is the digital front door to your entire life, to your family's life. So is yours locked? It's probably a good time to go and check.